Thank you very much. Yes, I'm wearing the Michigan hat. Yes, well, there are Spartans here. Please, we wear the hat of the underdog. The Spartans don't need my help anymore. I'm here now in Ann Arbor to help you. Almost heaven, West Virginia. Ah, yes. You know, when I think of looking for a basketball coach, I think of West Virginia. And then there's a lot of tall white guys in West Virginia. And then when I think of football, I think of West Virginia. But there actually is another underdog here. I have to put that hat on too. Even, all right, well, this hat or this hat? All right. Huh? I was just kidding about the West Virginia stuff. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. Really, I believe that. There's no reason to be upset about anything. Well, I'm here tonight to field dress a moose. Senator McCain and Governor Palin were in Grand Rapids. Was there a woo-hoo for? I think, no, seriously, just in deference to our fellow Americans who might be here and who are in support of the McCain-Palin ticket, we'll let them have a moment right now to do a big woo-hoo for McCain and Palin. All right, see, you made them afraid now. It's like all Republicans these days. You notice how they don't put the word Republican anymore on their signs or their literature? It's just, even at the Republican convention, the word Republican wasn't anywhere. It's like, what's that all about? It's not like it's the same as pedophile, or no one suggested that there be a Republican, neighborhood watch list, or, we're not going there yet. I mean, where if a Republican moves into the neighborhood, they have to sign up and, acknowledge publicly that they're in the neighborhood. But no, McCain and Palin were in Grand Rapids last night, and it was the first time that she agreed to take questions from the audience. And she said that she was now open for questions and ready to play Stump the Candidate. And because I guess it was Grand Rapids, there weren't many questions. It was just, I don't know. What is it about the other side of our state? We love them though, right? And we hold our hands out to them, and we want them to come with us in November, right? Yeah. They're every bit as affected by this as we or anyone else is, right? They maybe just don't, they've voted one way for so many years, they don't know how to do it in another way, and now's a good year to try doing it another way. I've said to, I've been on my own campaign to bring out the sort of white redneck vote here in Michigan. So I've been traveling to bowling alleys, and I've been at skeet shoots. We're going to do a 10-minute lube for Obama, oil change for Obama, here in a couple of weeks. Got a bunch of guys who are going to do oil changes because they say this is the group that Obama isn't appealing to. But of course, this is the group in some ways that's being beaten down the most by the Bush administration policies, and most of them I talk to seem to get it. And those that don't, I just say to them, if you're working on an engine and the wrench you have in your hand isn't working, you don't keep using the same wrong wrench. You try another wrench. You reach for another wrench, right? You don't keep trying that wrench doesn't work. And I say to them, do you think things are working for you now? Hell no. You like paying $4 plus a gallon for gas? Hell no. Well, the wrench isn't working, is it? Hell no. I said, listen, you don't have to become Democrats. You don't have to love the Democrats. You can keep hating the Democrats, in fact. I don't care. Just reach for the new wrench. And maybe that wrench, maybe that's the wrong wrench too. And if it is, you can throw the bum out in 4 years. Right? I mean, that's what we get to do. But you don't keep using the same wrench. You try the new wrench. That wrench seems to work a little better. And that was the last sound he heard. What was that? It was the wrench. Oh, man. Governor Palin, the genius move of that is that it's a distraction, a huge distraction from discussing the real issues that should be discussed during this campaign. And that was... And I think the Republicans knew that the corporate media would fall for it. They would it would just be, nirvana to them to be able to go all over this in the way that they just focused on it. And so everyone got distracted for a couple of weeks. The thing is, and this is what I've said again to people. I live, obviously in northern Michigan, where, well, maybe not so obviously. I live in northern Michigan now, an area of the state that voted 3-1 for Bush in the 2000 election. And so we moved up there to be among them. And what I've said to my neighbors up there, who are enthralled with the choice of Governor Palin, is that would you turn the keys to your house over to someone that you have known for 8 weeks? If you're going away, let's say on a trip, you're going away on a long trip, you love your house, right? Would you turn your house over to someone that you've known for now, 3 weeks and what will be about 8 weeks? And that man has a very fine house. Of course you wouldn't. What is it? It's actually 7 weeks now, isn't it? It'll be 6 on Tuesday, right? 6 weeks. Gee, 6 weeks. Would you turn your children over? Would you hand your kids over if you're going away on a trip? Would you turn them over to someone that you've known for 6 weeks? 6 weeks! No, why not? Because you love your children. You love your country, don't you? You love your country. So I say to my Palin loving neighbors, you love your country. Oh, hell yes, I love my country. Yes, you do love your country. You love your country a lot. Why would you turn something that you love so much, your country, over to, forget about her politics, forget about all the other noise around her, all this stuff. You know, let's even say that, you know, half of what she says right now sounds even great. Why would you turn your country over to someone you've known for 6 weeks? It doesn't make any sense. If you tell me you love your country, why would you do that? Yeah, but at least with Bush, we knew about him. We first of all got to see the dad. For 8 years as vice president, 4 years as president. Then we got to watch the Texas Rangers when they came to Tiger Stadium. You know, then we knew he was governor of Texas. And I mean, we knew enough about him right up until the last night before the election where he admitted the getting out of the drunk driving offense. Remember that? The 2 days or so before the election? I mean, we knew a lot about him. And that's why the country didn't vote for him. The country voted for Al Gore. So that's why. Because I have a basic faith in my fellow Americans. I believe that actually when they do know someone, they do the right thing. And in 2004, I could make the case that the country voted for Kerry. You know, when the real investigation is done on what happened in Ohio during that election, you know, we'll learn the full truth someday. But it's very hard for people after a lot of your fellow Americans, after they've been attacked and they're in the first year of a war, to change a president. It historically doesn't happen. And so I can understand why that came down to essentially just one state and just 100,000 some votes in one state. That's all that was. So you wouldn't turn the country over, and you shouldn't turn the country over. The chance of her being president is, well, what is it, 1 in 3 presidents have had to either leave office or died in office. 1 in 3 vice presidents, I forgot the statistic, but have become president. Is that correct? I mean, I think that's, yeah. And the statistic for a 72-year-old male in this country, because we die now at the average age of 75, that's the longevity rate for an American male. So he has a 1 in 3 chance of living through 8 years of a 2-term presidency. So I understand why people are a little afraid of this and why in the end it isn't a distraction, because you're voting for President Palin. You're voting to put someone in the White House that you've known for 6 weeks. Tell me, if you love this country, that you're not willing to do that. Please. I just don't believe it's going to happen. Hey, but enough about that. Communism has won! Communism has won! All right! All right! Socialism has prevailed! The government now owns the majority of the mortgages of the majority of the homes in this country. We own the largest insurance company in the country. We're going to own a bank or two. Oh, man! Isn't it great? Socialism for the rich. That's right. Oh, they're right there for the handout when they're in trouble, aren't they? Huh? Oh, man. Unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable what we're going through. And they step right up there to help them out. The millions of people that have lost their homes, no help for them. The 45 million with no health insurance, over 50 million have no health insurance during some part of every year. No help for you. If you've lost your job, no bailout for you. Can't afford to send the kids to college, no bailout for you. But if you're AIG, you know, I mean, this company, if you've read anything about them, you know, they're one of the worst health insurance companies. Stories of how their health insurance division won't help the returning Iraq vets who have PTSD. They won't cover that. All these things that their whole history, they're a conglomeration of insurance companies, one of which insured the slave trade back when slavery existed in this country. And slavery went on for much longer as a result of those insurance policies that they and other companies wrote. And so here they are now, getting a $85 billion bailout with our money. You know what happened last night in the middle of the night at 3 in the morning, at 3 a.m.? The Federal Reserve calling up banks around the world begging for money. And by 5 a.m., they'd raised $180 billion, mostly from Arab and Chinese banks. Unbelievable. It's just the most amazing thing I have witnessed economically in this country in my lifetime, and it's not over yet. It was funny this morning. Everybody's been wondering, where's Bush, right? You know, it's because he's been silent during this whole thing, and he, and I thought he was probably up in that same plane he used to fly over New Orleans. He's probably like flying over Wall Street, looking out the window. I don't need another shirt. Yeah, right. Here. Now I have to towel down after that. Anyway, so Bush finally went on television this morning. The stock market opened up, and it was doing quite well for about a half hour. It went up 220 points, and I was watching on the TV. Bush was going to make some remarks, and everybody was thinking he was going to say something really important. He spoke for like 2.5, 3 minutes, and that was it. He just went out there wanted to reinsure investors, and the money will be there, and don't worry about anything, and we'll see you later. Well, they had a split screen of the Dow. Literally, I'm not making this up. During the 3 minutes that he spoke, it dropped 100 points. And I had this feeling, you know, either whatever that is, the earpiece that he wears during press conferences, or he's got the screen in the podium, or, you know, when they're telling him what to do or say. I think that someone was screaming in his ear, "Get off the microphone right now! Walk back into the White House!" It looked like the whole market was going to plunge the more he kept talking. And he was kind of like, "Oh, okay, goodbye." It was just like it was over. Even all the commentators came on afterwards. I mean, they cut in on AB, not the cable news. They cut in, like during the game shows and the soap operas and the Dr. Phil Doctors show. They cut in with Charlie Gibson. I mean, they brought their big anchors out. The thing lasted 3 minutes. He didn't say anything, and they're going, "Well, that was short. And he didn't say anything." But it was because the market was going to crash while he was on the air. I swear to God, as soon as he walked back into the White House, it started going back up. You've got to see the footage of this. It's like he's been their pawn, you know, their boy for the last 8 years, and now they don't even want him around. You know, even he's the enemy to them now. But not quite not quite so fast. Not quite so fast. It really, it just, Washington Mutual is going to be the next thing they're talking about today, today's bailout. Wasn't that funny? It was, first they bailed out Bear Stearns, and then this weekend came around, this past weekend, and everybody thought they were going to bail out Lehman Brothers. And Monday they said, no, that's it, just Bear Stearns. We're not going to bail out anybody else. And we're not bailing out Lehman Brothers. And like 2 days later, they're bailing out AIG. Today it's Washington Mutual. Now they're talking about Morgan Stanley might be merging with somebody else by the end of today, or I don't know. It was just the most amazing thing. But it's like now they're going to have to start bailing out all of their friends who have funded them in office for all these years. Whether it's Bear Stearns, AIG, Washington Mutual. I just sat there thinking today, what did the Lehman Brothers do to fuck up? What was the... Oh, sorry, we'll bleep that out. We're on C-SPAN, so I didn't... My apologies. But no, seriously, what did the Lehman Brothers... If you were a Lehman Brothers right now, if you were one of the brothers, wouldn't you be going, what did we do? You're bailing everybody else out. What are we? I don't know. Why can't we vote on these bailouts? What do you think this is, a democracy? If we had a democratic economic system where we actually had a say in how the economy was run, well, that would be a true form of democracy, wouldn't it? It's, but hey, we get to go and vote every 2 years or 4 years, and, we just walk out of the voting booth, we get those little stickers that says, I voted. We live in a democracy. They're going to dig up video, if video exists that long, of us 100, 200 years from now. We're going to look pretty ridiculous that we called this a democracy when it was really run by, for, and of the rich. And yet they got all of us to run around thinking that we were free and lived in a democracy. We got to control our destiny. And until that ultimately changes, none of this will change. And we'll just continue to be spectators of this blood sport. How long do you want to wait before we do something about this? It's a free market, though. Free market, free enterprise. What a lie. They don't believe in free enterprise. They don't believe in a free market. They want to have no competition. They want to buy it out or merge with it or eliminate it so that they're the only airline or the only auto company or the only bookstore. We only need one bookstore chain. Barnes. We don't even need Noble. To hell with Noble. You only need one chain, it's called Barnes, and you will read what we sell you. All those years, they got us spending all that money fighting the communists, when that's the system that they truly loved, where there could be the only one with no competition, no free market, no free enterprise, and to have the government use its money to prop them up, to support them, to bail them out, to own them. Who owns what here? Do we really own Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, or do those people own us? I think that we need to start redefining some of these terms here. And John McCain, this is a scary proposition, putting him in the White House. I wrote in my book here, I put some quotes in from some Republicans who have known McCain for many years. And I just want to read you a couple of these quotes. One is from Senator Thad Cochran of Mississippi. He said, "The thought of his being president sends a chill down my spine. He's erratic. He's boneheaded. He loses his temper, and he worries me." That's from one of his own saying that. Then there was Senator Smith from New Hampshire. I need my reading glasses for this one. His temper would place this country at risk in international affairs, and the world perhaps in danger. In my mind, it should disqualify him. This is what he said in April of this year. I'm not talking about old John McCain, this year. Smith added, "I've witnessed a lot of his temper and outbursts. For me, some of this stuff is relevant. It raises questions about stability. It's more than just temper. It's this need of his to show you that he's above you, a sneering, condescending attitude." The thought of somebody like that being in the White House should be a concern not to just these Republican senators, but to all of us. You know, when he talks about the surge, and this is the thing that he's running on now, the surge being a success of what? I mean, this is like somebody who, well, the example I gave on Larry King last week, it'd be like your child who's causing a ruckus at the dinner table, gets up, runs around the table, knocks the table, and a glass of milk falls on the floor and spills all over the place. And then the child, seeing what he's done, goes and looks for the right kind of rag to mop up the milk, and mops up the milk. And then says to Mommy and Daddy, "Look what I've done! I've mopped up the milk!" Well, yes, you should, because you created the mess. But the milk's gone, and the glass is broken, and you're not getting a gold star on your head. The surge, the lie of the surge, is this simple fact, that we've paid off the Sunni militias not to attack us, not to kill us. We've gone in there like Tony Soprano and said, okay, you know, I mean, they are the Tony Soprano, and we are paying Tony Soprano to not kill us. That's the way this system is working, and until we're gone, that's probably the way it will continue to work, until we're gone. And I think we all know or have a good idea of what will happen then. For him to brag about this surge, I wish just one reporter would say to him, "Can you tell us, Senator McCain, how many of our 4,100 soldiers will be brought back as a result of the success of the surge?" How much of the $500 billion that we've spent, the trillion we're going to spend, trillion or more, how much of that is going to be repaid into our treasury and taken off the backs of our children and grandchildren because of the success of the surge? How many of the 100,000 plus Iraqis who are dead as a result of our bombing, how many of them will be brought back as a result of the surge? I don't want to hear about his surge. And I don't want to hear about how he's going to bomb Iran. In fact, I don't want to hear about Iran at all. I don't want to hear one word about Iran. I'm serious. I mean, imagine if we were living in Iran, if this was Iran. There's an army that's invaded one country on the one side of us and another country on the other side of us. You know, what would we do about that? If suddenly, let's say the Iranians invaded Canada and Mexico and occupied both countries. How would you feel? I think some people might start building some bombs. I think some people might get a little nervous. Other people will just say, hey, we're going to get some nice rugs. Might not be all bad. I don't want to hear one word about some Iranian nuclear program, some Iranian bomb. I don't believe it. I won't believe it after what they've done to us, of how they lied to us to take us into this war in Iraq. I'll never believe them again. Not any of these people. They don't have a right to open their mouths. Not a single word. Not a single word. I'm sorry. I mean, seriously, Ahmadinejad himself would have to walk out here onto the stage of the Michigan Theater right now with the bomb in his hands for me to believe it. Ladies and gentlemen, direct from Vegas, Mr. Ahmadinejad. Hello, Ann Arbor, hello. I have a little bomb. Don't quite know what to do with it, but here it is. Nothing they say should be believed. I got to meet I.F. Stone a year or so before he died, and that great quote of his that was his motto throughout his journalistic career: all governments are run by liars, and nothing they say should be believed. That should be where a journalist starts. And then, if the government official or the corporate official can prove what they're saying is true, then we might believe them. That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be in a free and open society. But John McCain, boy, when he started here, the real part of the campaign a couple months ago, he was running all those ads about his Vietnam service, and it started out with the Summer of Love. You remember that ad a couple months ago, showing all the hippies, you know, and the announcer said, while some people were enjoying the Summer of Love, John McCain was serving his country. You know, I've said for some time that in a more just world, anybody who would be willing to offer the possibility of losing their life to defend the rest of us is doing one of the most honorable and noble things one could do, if that's in fact the way it's set up. But we haven't seen that. I believe that if you've spent your life working for peace, and if you were at those demonstrations during the Summer of Love, or any demonstration since then, if you've written your member of Congress, if you've worked for a candidate, if you've worked in a local peace group, that you are every bit a hero as anybody who decides to defend us in the military. I was bothered by these ads, and I'm worried about our younger generation, that when I see the wrong lessons of Vietnam being taught to them by people like John McCain, that it's important for those of us who were around then to teach them the correct lessons about Vietnam. So I wrote about this, and I'd like to just do a little reading from my book here. I have a section of the book. It begins with 25 people who ask me questions, and then I answer these questions. And this question is, why did the Vietnamese shoot down John McCain and put him in prison for 5 years? He seems like such a nice guy. And my answer was the following. I'm guessing, in spite of his anger management issues, he is a nice guy. He's devoted his life to this country. He was willing to make the ultimate sacrifice in the defense of our nation, and for that he was tortured and then imprisoned in a North Vietnamese POW camp for nearly 5.5 years. Sadly, McCain's sacrifice had nothing to do with protecting the United States of America. He was sent to Vietnam along with hundreds of thousands of others in an attempt to prop up what was essentially an American colony, South Vietnam, which was being run by a dictator whom we installed. Lest we all forget, the Vietnam War represented a mass slaughter by the United States government on a scale that sought to rival our genocide of the Native Americans. The U.S. Armed Forces killed more than 2 million civilians in Vietnam, and perhaps another million in Laos and Cambodia. The Vietnamese had done nothing to us. They had not bombed or invaded or even sought to murder a single American. President Johnson and the Pentagon lied to Congress in order to get a vote passed to put the country into war. Only 2 senators had the guts to vote no. Almost 3 million troops ended up serving in Vietnam. The United States dropped more tons of bombs on the Vietnamese people than the Allied powers dropped during all of World War II. In response, during the 9 years of the war, not a single Vietnamese bomb was dropped on U.S. soil. Not a single Vietnamese terrorist attack took place in the U.S. of A. But we poured 18 million gallons of poisonous chemicals on their villages and rice fields. The number of injured, wounded, and severely deformed Vietnamese has never been counted because it's just too huge for anyone to calculate, let alone comprehend. And yet, with all of the death and destruction we visited upon the Vietnamese, we lost the war. They never gave up. Just as I'd like to think we would never give up, should we ever be on the receiving end of such a horrific assault from an invading force. During Christmas of 1972, though the U.S. was only a month away from calling it quits, President Nixon ordered the carpet bombing of the civilian population of Hanoi and Haiphong. 2,000 combat sorties dropped 20,000 tons of bombs in a final burst of anger for having been beaten by a nation of peasants who didn't possess a single attack helicopter or bomber plane during the entire war. John McCain flew 23 bombing missions over North Vietnam in a campaign called Operation Rolling Thunder. During this bombing campaign, which lasted for almost 44 months, U.S. forces flew 307 attack sorties, dropping 643,000 tons of bombs on North Vietnam, roughly the same tonnage dropped in the Pacific during all of World War II. Though the stated targets were factories, bridges, and power plants, thousands of bombs also fell on homes, schools, and hospitals. In the midst of the campaign, Defense Secretary Robert McNamara estimated that we were killing 1,000 civilians a week. That's more than one 9/11 every single month for 44 months. In his book, Faith of Our Fathers, McCain wrote that he was upset that he had been limited to bombing military installations, roads, and power plants. He said such restrictions were, quote, illogical and senseless. I do believe, quoting McCain, that had we taken the war to the north and made full, consistent use of air power in the north, we ultimately would have prevailed. End quote. In other words, McCain believes we could have won the Vietnam War had we been able to drop even more bombs. And thus it was on October 26, 1967, that John McCain, flying his A-4 Skyhawk, was hit by a North Vietnamese anti-aircraft artillery shell just as he fired off his missile at not a military target, not an army unit, not a battleship, but at an electricity generating station that supplied electrical power to a number of neighborhoods in Hanoi. The target, according to McCain, was in a, quote, his quotes now, a heavily populated part of Hanoi, end quote. Heavily populated. A plane from the sky raining missiles down on a heavily populated area of a nation's capital. McCain's plane plunged into a lake not far from the presidential palace. With 3 broken limbs, McCain was drowning. Vietnamese civilians on the shore dove in to save him, just like we would do if someone had just bombed our neighborhood, right? He was brought ashore, and an angry mob formed. They beat him, and someone stabbed him in the groin. That's when Mae Von An, the local villager who helped pull McCain out of the lake, stepped in to save him a second time. He stood in front of McCain and told the mob to back off. Eventually, the police and the army showed up. McCain was apprehended, and it was off to prison for him. So let me ask that question again. If someone had just been dropping bombs on your home, how would you react? After seeing your child blown to pieces, what would you do to the man who fell out of the sky? What would you do to the man who committed this act? Please, my fellow Americans, answer honestly. And if you did decide to let this man live, what kind of justice should be handed to him? Should it be the death penalty? The same death penalty we are asking for those charged with 9/11 crimes in Guantanamo Bay? Or should it be life in prison? Would 5 years be enough? Torture is always wrong, even when we do it. Torturing John McCain was outrageous and appalling. I hope the people who perpetrated these heinous acts on him have apologized to him. John McCain is already using the Vietnam War now in his political ads. In doing so, it makes not just what happened to him in Vietnam fair game for discussion, but also what he did to the Vietnamese. Considering what the Republicans were willing to do to smear war hero John Kerry in the last election, I don't want to hear them now say that John McCain's war record cannot be called into question. I would like to see one brave reporter during this election season ask this simple question of John McCain. Sir, is it morally right to drop bombs and missiles in a, quote, heavily populated area where hundreds, if not thousands, of civilians will perish? What, Senator McCain, is your answer? How are we doing here for time? We're going to start the film here.
We love you, Mike.
What time is it? Huh? Okay. I want to say two more things. I'm just going to read you one more quick thing. I know this is supposed to be a lecture put on by the School of Art and Design. The art and design of a culture. Well, I think this is why we're all so proud to have Ann Arbor here inside this wonderful state of Michigan. I wanted to ask a question, though, just a sort of a rhetorical question. Was George W. Bush right? I know, that's right. That's the answer we immediately are prone to give. But I wonder, that secret energy meeting that they held in the White House, right when he took office, do you remember the one that they still won't release the minutes for who was there and what they discussed? But there's a lot of evidence coming out now that they planned Iraq long before 9/11. They came into the White House with designs on Iraq. This was being discussed before they came to the White House, and I want to put forth a notion that perhaps maybe that's what was going on in that meeting. Because being oil men, and this is how history will judge these 8 years, when the oil men took over the country. The oil men came into the White House, and they knew something that the rest of us didn't know or didn't want to know, that there was only so much oil left under the earth. Yes. And it was a lot less than what the people thought that it was. And they said to themselves, there's no plan for the chaos and calamity that's about to take place as the oil runs out. I think we need ourselves a gas station, a big gas station, like perhaps the size of Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Iran. Is that what they were discussing? Was this part of their grand plan? Because they knew, and they should know, because it's how they made their money, that there was only so much of the commodity left. They knew that we would eventually figure out a way to transport ourselves. That's a no-brainer on some level. And they also knew that we would figure out a way to generate electricity because we already knew how to do that. There were alternative ways to do that. But no windmill, no solar panel can make this pair of glasses, or this microphone, or this podium, or grow the food that you're going to eat tonight, the way that the food is brought to your table. This is all petroleum-based. What are we going to do then? When drill, drill, drill. This guy just keeps saying drill, 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 drill. I understand now it's starting to sound sexual coming from you, sir. And I accept that as I realize now that this election has become not about who you want to have a beer with, but who you want to have sex with. And I'm counting on the fact that Barack Obama that there's more people that are going to want to have sex with him than John McCain. Just a wild guess. And I understand now why John McCain has brought Governor Palin into the mix. Because where I'm from in Flint, there's a lot of guys that would like to have Sarah Palin in the deer camp up in Grayling. Hunting deer with them, gutting the deer. Always look for a woman that can gut a good deer. We don't got moose. Well, we got some moose here, but we gut too many of them. So now we're just got the deer to gut here in Michigan. Sir, you threw me off with your drill, drill, drill. But my friends, as John McCain would say, my friends, you realize that the end is near as far as the fossil fuels that are left under the earth, right? And it's a much, much bigger issue than how we're going to heat our homes, turn on our lights, and transport ourselves from here to Inkster, right? I'm not going to Inkster. Why did he say that? I'm not. We better get it together. I'm telling you. We better get it together. Because I think, we haven't been willing to stand up and fight back and take back our government from these people. They're going to drill us right into the ground. And we become a nation of wimps. We've got to stand up and fight, my friends. Come on. Come on. I mean, I don't know. I've got a thing in this book here. I won't read this now, but it's a whole thing about how I think how we've turned ourselves into this country of wimps. When I was on Larry King, actually, the last time, he was in the commercial breaks calling his wife, who was at the Little League game with his son, his son's a pitcher, and they'd just taken him out of the game, like in the second or third inning. And I said, well, geez, why did they take him out of the game? He said, well, they can only throw 38 pitches. I said, what? This is why Al-Qaeda is winning. We won't let our kids throw more than 38 pitches? What's going on here? Anyways, so I'm not going to read this here. But I just think that I don't know. This takes too long for me to get into it. But basically, let me just read you. These are my proposals. No more play dates for the kids. Let them fend for themselves and make their own arrangements with other kids. Let them run loose around the neighborhood playing Al-Qaeda versus Army. Yes, a few of them will run out into the street. That's just how it goes. Number 2, close down all McDonald's. Make it illegal to sell a soft drink in a container that holds more than 8 ounces. Number 3, 1 hour of each workday becomes mandatory for exercise. Number 4, shut down the scooter store. Unless you are paralyzed or severely disabled, you are to get up and walk using your own 2 legs. And number 5, Little League pitchers can throw as many pitches as they want until the coach pulls them out of the game. And when the game is over, the kids can walk home in the street. Well, I got more applause in Ann Arbor than I thought I'd get. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I know a lot of you have been suffering depression for the last couple of weeks. It feels so good to be depressed about the election, doesn't it? That's right. As you've been feeling this way for 8 years. So, what's so bad about right now? Oh, I don't know. It looks like he's going to lose. Look how McCain is up in the polls now, and what are we going to do? And the Palin thing and everything is just, come on. There's no crying in politics. Come on. This isn't how we're going to win. Listen, I'm here to bring you some good news. Barack Obama isn't just going to win. He's going to win in a landslide. Come on! Come on! Come on! Come on, of course! I don't know, Mike. I don't know because people are stupid and they just fall for anything and they just the American people, they just believe anything. And yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true. They believed there were weapons of mass destruction and 70% supported the war. Then, when they found out they were lied to, 70% were against the war. Once they learn the truth, they're okay. It is easy to fool them. Lincoln told us that, didn't he? You can fool some of the people all the time, all the people some of the time, right? I forgot how Bob Dylan finished that, but there was... It's okay. It's okay. Sooner or later, people come around. I know. But Mike, they've only got 6 weeks to come around. How are they going to find out? They're just so stupid. Stop with the stupid thing. Look, there's over 200 million, people of adult age in this country that can vote. Okay, granted, a good 30 million of them are stone cold idiots. But that's what's so great about this country. It's so huge. You can have 30 million idiots running around saying that the earth was created in 6 days and Adam and Eve were riding dinosaurs. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's just 30 million. That leaves like 170, 180 million who aren't stupid. You just need a little help. That's what you've got to do between now and the election. You got to get out there. You got to get involved. I hope everyone in here is involved in the campaign, doing some kind of work, going door to door, doing something. Come on. If my redneck buddies up in Flint, if they don't vote for Obama, that's okay too. That's okay. Do you realize that John Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and Bill Clinton each lost the white male vote? They lost the white male. They won with a majority of women and people of color voting for them. The same can happen again with a significant number of white males who are, enlightened enough to vote for Obama. It can happen and will happen again. You got to have some faith in this. I know it feels it's hard. It's hard. Because all you see are white guys yakking all the time, white guys on cable news and yakking, and then other than the blonde Republicans they get every now and then, I don't know where they dig some of the people up to say these, where they find women to say things against the best interest of women, how they do that, I don't know, it could be, casting, I don't know. But you don't despair about this. And remember, the polls always undercount African Americans and young people. They always undercount. They haven't figured out a way yet to poll people with cell phones. Young people, those of you in here who are students, you don't have landlines. What's a landline? You have a cell phone, and you're not going to get called by a pollster because you have a cell phone. So they're not, and they're polling what they call likely voters. They do that by going back and looking to see who's voted in the last few elections. Well, if you're 18 or 19 or 20 years old, you haven't voted in the last few elections. So you're not being called when they say likely voters. Young people ignited this Obama movement, and young people will deliver Obama on November 4th. I believe it in my heart. I believe it in my heart. This is going to happen. It's going to happen. Our African American friends, our brothers and sisters in the African American community, everything that we can do to be helpful, the voter registration thing that's set up, they're constantly adding rules to make it more and more difficult because they want to keep certain people away from the polls. We have to do our best to get out there and make sure that they get registered, that they get help, that they know that they have to bring a driver's license if they're a first-time voter to the polls. All these rules that have been set up by our Republican Secretary of State here in Michigan, they make it very, very difficult in this state. And so, young people here who don't know that they can register here in Ann Arbor, the registration date is October 6th, Monday, October 6th. By 5 o'clock, you have to be registered in the state. If you're not, you can't vote. So it's so important in these last couple weeks here that we do whatever we can to get out and get people registered to vote, do whatever we can to help in those communities who traditionally have given up for very good reason because they don't really believe the system is there for them because it hasn't been there for them. So what are we going to do this time to hold our hand out, to help out in whatever way we can, to see that their voice is heard? This can happen on November 4th, my friends. I really believe this. I'm not just saying this to make you feel better, to get you through the last couple weeks or whatever. I have a very strong belief that all kinds of Americans are going to wake up in the next 6 weeks. Those middle-class Americans who've been told to put their money into 401ks, in IRAs, what do you think they're feeling tonight? What do you think their quarterly statement, third quarter ends September 30th? What do you think the quarterly statement's going to look like in the first week of October when they get it? That could perhaps do more to tip this election in Obama's favor when they get the wake-up call that the people that have been in charge, it's been heck of a job, Brownie, from top to bottom in the Bush administration, and it's what John McCain has supported for these 8 years, and it will be 4 more years of the same. Don't fool yourselves. It's going to be 4 more years of this, perhaps even worse on some level, because McCain isn't as stupid as Bush. And when you got a smart or semi-smart guy in charge, it could be even worse for the average working American. So have some faith in your fellow Americans. They're not as dumb as you think they are. Seriously, they're living through some hard times. They're easily manipulated with fear. Fear is a powerful, powerful weapon, and they've used it wisely in these last 8 years. The antidote to fear is information. Just as with a small child, when you show them that there is no boogeyman behind the door, there is no ghost in the closet, over a period of time, they realize that there's nothing to be afraid of in that closet. And that's all our fellow Americans need, is just the information about how they have been deceived and manipulated in these last 8 years. And I think enough of them will come around. So I want to close by giving you just a few modest proposals from the book. And then I want to recite something to you that will take about 20 seconds. But anyways, these are my modest proposals for President Obama, beginning on January 20th, 2009. Number one, bring back the draft, but only draft the children of the top 5% wage earners in this country. I am convinced if they have to send their own kids off to war, there won't be any wars. And if for some reason they do send their kids off to war, if they actually support sending their own kids off to a war, we probably are in some kind of trouble. We might want to pay attention to it. It's a good indicator if the rich are willing. And I actually looked up the U.S. Census Bureau statistics. There's like 3.1 million people in our armed forces. There's about 3.1 million 18 to 26-year-old offspring of the top 5% wage earners in this country. So it's almost an even match. So we could actually have the same armed forces we have now, but only with rich kids. By the way, that would have got a louder applause at Michigan State. Proposal number 2 to President Obama. Please sign into law the John Conyers Universal Health Care legislation, H.R. 676. The Obama health plan is no good. The McCain health plan is really, really no good. So you have essentially the evil of the lesser of two evils here, as I used to say, the evil of two lessers. But that's okay. Barack Obama, you can't expect any one individual to have it right on everything. Just as he's wrong about sending more brigades to Afghanistan, I can give him maybe the phone numbers of some former Soviet officials he should talk to about when you send more troops to Afghanistan. In fact, if he could somehow communicate with Genghis Khan, generally, for the last 1,000 or so years, anybody who's thought, hey, let's send more troops to Afghanistan, it has never worked. Okay, so sending troops against a noun, terrorism, you can't defeat a noun with an army. I'll let you think about that for a minute. So what we need our Democratic Congress to do is we need to pass a good health care plan, H.R. 676. And the great thing about this is that, Conyers has 91 co-sponsors now. That's huge. 91. You only need 217 to actually pass a bill into law in the U.S. House of Representatives, and these 91 co-sponsors. So this is a good thing, and I believe that a President Obama will not veto a democratically endorsed bill from Congress, right? So, number 3, by the way, we can also help here in Michigan. We have way too many Republican congressman from our state. It's an embarrassment. And we have a number of good Democrats that are running against incumbent Republicans. Three of them have an excellent chance of winning. Mark Schauer is running against Tim Walberg. Walberg is only a first-term congressman. He won last time with less than 50% of the vote. Many of you are in Schauer's district. He's a really good guy. I support him, and I think you should take a look at his proposals. You'll be very happy with what you see. Also, Gary Peters is running against Representative Nolenberg, who he barely scooted into office 2 years ago. He should have been one of the ones that were booted in '06 and wasn't. Gary Peters is the Democratic leader of the Michigan Senate. I'm sorry. He's the lottery commissioner, and so he has an excellent chance of beating Nolenberg. And Bob Alexander is running against Mike Rogers. Rogers is the one who tried to and actually succeeded at some point in making sure that college students, because his district is in East Lansing, couldn't vote where they go to school. That was his big pro-democracy legislation when he was in the Michigan legislature. So we have some very good people that we need to support here. And after the movie's over tonight, I've asked their volunteers from the campaigns there. They'll have buckets outside the door here in the lobby. You can give up to $20 without having to sign a thing about your name and address and all that when you make a political contribution for Congress. So if you have $1 or $5 or $10 to put in these buckets tonight, and we'll divide it equally between these three congressional candidates who have an excellent chance. They're either even or ahead in the polls right now against the incumbent Republicans from this state. So would you... If you would do that as a favor to me, to give them just a small amount of money. You know, we've got a couple thousand people in here tonight, and there were hundreds that couldn't get in, so I've agreed to do a second show tonight for them after this is over. And we could raise over $20,000 for their campaign tonight if you gave just a little bit on your way out. Proposal number 3 to President Obama: ban high fructose corn syrup. And I will be the poster boy of that campaign. Number 4, there are 1 billion people on this planet that do not have access to clean drinking water. Let's build wells in the third world. Let's build them and build them now. President Obama, it costs $10 per person in these villages to build a well. That's it. $10 a person. 1 billion people, $10 billion. We're going to spend $12 billion on Iraq in this month alone. $12 billion. 1 month of Iraq, and the entire world can have clean drinking water. What is our problem? This is how I want to be known from the poor of this world. I want them to know us Americans as the people that brought them clean drinking water. You know, maybe we could, okay, $11 per person. We could just put a $1 plaque maybe on each well. All throughout the third world it says, "This well brought to you from your friends in the United States of America." Wouldn't we like to be known for that instead of what we're known for now? President Obama, proposal number 5. Do you realize that if you make over $102,000 a year, now most of you don't probably fit into that category, and the ones who do, we're not applauding the earlier thing about drafting your kids. But if you make over $102,000 a year, do you realize that those who are in that category do not pay one dime of Social Security tax on any money they earn over $102,000? Do you realize that? Did you know that? So you know, like on your pay stub where it shows how much was deducted from your paycheck, and what is it? It's like 6.5. What is it? 6.7, 6. Whatever it is, you know what it is. It's essentially. My point is, whether you earn $30,000 a year, or $50,000 a year, $60,000 a year, there's a flat tax on you for Social Security that's taken out, no deductions from it. You pay it straight, and that's it, right? But there's not a flat tax on anybody who earns more than $102,000. They pay 0% on the income over $102,000. Why shouldn't they have to pay the same 6.5 to 7% rate that you have to pay on 100% of your income? They should have to pay it on 100% of their income. Isn't that the fair thing? I mean, so Senator Dodd, his staff did the math on this. Do you realize that if tomorrow, if everyone in America just had to pay the same percent of Social Security tax on whatever they earn, and that means those who make over $102,000 a year too, that we would immediately have enough money in Social Security for the next 75 years to almost the 22nd century. There'd be enough money starting tomorrow. Why don't they tell us this? Why don't they tell us this? All we hear is Social Security's in trouble. Social Security's going to collapse. Why, we're going to run out by 2017, right? Right? That's all we've heard. We're going to run out by 2017. Yeah, that's because the rich don't have to pay. If they paid, we've got enough money to the 22nd century. What did we, come on. And again, your Republican brother-in-law, your Republican neighbor, your Republican coworker, please remind them tomorrow what Social Security would look like if the George Bush plan, his number one thing, remember after he said, I've got a lot of political capital after the Kerry election in '04, the first thing he said we're going to do is we're going to take care of Social Security and we're going to privatize parts of it. We're going to have these Wall Street accounts. He was going to put Social Security in the hands of Wall Street 4 years ago. Remind your friends of this, please. Imagine what Social Security would look like tonight. We'd all be Lehman Brothers. Number 6, we have to change the way we do elections. The Canadians just called for elections on September 9th. The election here is going to be October 14th. 5 weeks. It's crazy the way we do this. A lot of countries, most democracies, have their elections on the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, so more people can vote. They're not working, or they're not working as much. That's why our elections are on the first Tuesday of November, because they wanted to do it after the harvest was in. This was set up during when agriculture was the main employment of this country. And so first Tuesday, all the harvest would be in. And they did it on a Tuesday instead of a Monday because people go to church on Sunday, and then they wanted to give them a day to travel to get to the polls. So those would be like a couple days off. They wouldn't be working then. That's why it was set up on the first Tuesday. We need elections on the weekends, and we need to do it the way Canadians, Brits, Irish, French, Scandinavians, the way most of the Western democracies do an election. They do it with a piece of paper and a number 2 pencil. That's how they do their ballots. Do you realize this? When they vote in Canada on October 14th, they're going into the booth, and there's a paper and a pencil there. And they've got over 30 million people. They are able to count all these paper ballots in a matter of hours. And my friends, this is the second largest landmass in the world I mean, they've got to bring ballots in by dog sled, canoe, baby seals. Canadians are here. There must be a Canadian or two. Am I telling the truth here? Right? That's right. A piece of paper and a pencil. Because at 8 o'clock, when the polls close, you dump all the ballots out on a big table in the middle of the gymnasium at the elementary school. And there's a poll watcher there from each of the 5 political parties that have full access to the debates and commercials and whatever. And because the Canadians are so crazy, they think that in a nation of 30 million people, 5 parties barely covers the broad spectrum of political thought and discourse in their country. But they have poll watchers there, and they watch and they see right there, because the ballots are marked with a pencil, and they verify it right there, right then and there, and we need that. So I would like to see us get rid of these machines. Well, and proportional voting and a whole bunch of other things that we need to talk. No more dangling chads. That's right. I'm going to close by giving you my final proposal here, and then we're going to take like a quick 5-minute break to set up the screen. And I'm really honored to be able to show this movie here to you. I started doing this back with Bowling for Columbine. I was supposed to speak here on this stage, and I brought a VHS tape of it, and I asked them here, they have a way to I was, most of the way through editing it, but I wasn't done with it yet, and I just thought I'd see if I was on the right track, and it was all a mess, and time code was on everything, and they said yes, they could do it, and we set up a VHS projector up there in the balcony and on the first row there. And I sat up there and watched it and saw their response, and I felt that we were on the right path. And it was this audience here in Ann Arbor that gave me the wherewithal to finish that film. And and so since then, I've finished no film without bringing it to Ann Arbor first to do a test screening. So Ann Arbor was the first to see Fahrenheit 9/11 and the first to see Sicko. And you'll be the first to see this film tonight. I shot it back in 2004 during the election campaign. I went on a 62-city tour of the country to help out in whatever way I could, and I was one of many people. Russell Simmons had organized a lot of hip-hop artists to tour. A lot of bands went out, from Springsteen to REM to Pearl Jam. And maybe some of you were at some of those concerts that were here in Detroit, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo. But our whole goal was to get young people out to vote. And they always talk about how young people don't care, they're apathetic, they don't get involved, they don't vote. When the ballots were all counted in November of 2004, it turned out that not only had young people turned out in record numbers, the largest number of young people ever to vote since the 18-year-olds were given the right to vote back in the 70s. It was the largest turnout. It was also the only age group that Kerry won. He lost every age group but the 18 to 29-year-old vote. And so this is sort of a concert film. This is not like Fahrenheit or Roger and Me or Bowling for Columbine, or getting into the big issues of whatever it is. Actually, my crew and I we're here in Michigan now this year, and for a good chunk of next year, making my next big movie that'll be out, I hope at the end of '09. And I don't talk about these movies while I'm making them, so I'm sorry I can't really say a whole lot about it right now, but I think you'll enjoy it when it's out. But this I shot, and I put it away feeling bummed out about the whole election and everything in '04, and then I decided to edit it together, and I liked it. And I thought, oh, this is kind of cool. And I took it to the Toronto Film Festival last September, and it got a bigger response. It got a longer standing ovation than Bowling for Columbine got. And I thought, well, what do these Canadians know? So I thought maybe we should put this out. And as we got into the election this year, I thought, you know, I don't want to do this the normal way. Actually, I want to give this film away, and next year will be 20 years since I made Roger and Me, and coming up on my 20th anniversary of being a filmmaker. I thought, I'm going to give this one away. I'm going to make this available for free to all the people who've come to my movies over the years and have been supportive. I feel very blessed and privileged to be able to do this. It wasn't in the cards. It was not what the high school counselor suggested I should do. And to be able to do this and to keep making these films, you know, because you've kept going to them, I'm able to raise the money to make them, and I'm extremely appreciative of that. So this is sort of a gift from me to you for that support for these last 20 years. It, like I said, it's not Fahrenheit 9/11, but it's just a little dessert with no high fructose corn syrup in it. I hope you enjoy it. What I hope it'll do is inspire you to get involved, especially young people here in the audience, when you see just how large our numbers are. It's very difficult when you live, not so much in the Ann Arbors of this country, but when you live in Saginaw or, yeah, exactly, all of those places, and it feels like there's just 3 of you, and you see one Obama yard sign, and 2 Obama bumper stickers, one of which somebody tried to scratch off with their Republican claws. But it feels alone, and the truth is not that. You're not alone. You're actually the majority of this country. The majority of Americans want clean air and clean water. The majority of Americans are against this war. The majority of Americans believe women should be treated the same as men. The majority of Americans are pro-choice. The majority of Americans, you go down the whole list. It's actually a fairly liberal country. It's just that the Democrats have not often provided very good candidates to vote for that have inspired people to really get out there and vote. And we need a Democratic Party that's got a backbone, that's got a spine, that'll stand up and do the job that they're supposed to do, that we send them there to do, and we expect them to do it. So, with all of that in mind, and my hope that you will get involved, and my promise to you to keep making these movies, including under the Obama administration, because the day after he's inaugurated, I and others will be at work making sure he does the right thing. So, Francis Bellamy was an American socialist. His brother, Edward Bellamy, wrote what was probably the, if not the largest, the second largest selling novel of the 19th century, called Looking Backward, about a supposed utopian, socialist utopian future where people were treated as human beings. His brother Francis, who loved this country and loved the ideals that the country was founded on, came up with an idea that we should be teaching our children to pledge their allegiance to the ideals of this country. And so he came up with this idea to write a Pledge of Allegiance. He was a Baptist minister. His favorite sermon that he liked to preach was called Jesus Was a Socialist. He petitioned President Benjamin Harrison to, on one day in 1892, where the school children of America would recite this very simple pledge. Please note the words, because it is not the same exact pledge that is spoken now. The original wording was as follows: I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Not bad. Simple, to the point. 1943, the Supreme Court ruled that you could not force kids to say the pledge, because now, during wartime, they thought it was best to force children to recite this every morning. And they changed the words to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And then, during the commie witch hunts of the 1950s, they added the words, and this is contrary to what Governor Palin said in her speech at the convention, where she said the Founding Fathers wrote these words, one nation under God. Founding Fathers did not write those words. In fact, the Founding Fathers were wary of anybody who came to them with God on their sleeve. So a very good idea got messed up. And I would like to propose that we start off this new century with a new pledge, something that I think is more in keeping with the America that we all believe in, and the America that we all would like to believe can be. So this is my pledge, and this is what I say when I am in those situations where we must rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Never a nice feeling either whenever, it's like the same thing like when you see the pickup trucks going down the road with the big American flags flying out the back. USA! USA! When you see that going down the highway, it doesn't say, hello friends, I love all of you. That's why I have this big flag out the back of my pickup truck. It says love. Doesn't say that, does it? Sense of anger behind it. I don't really think that's what the Founding Fathers intended. So I'd like us to have this pledge. And this is what I would like our children to recite if they so choose. I pledge allegiance to the people of the United States of America and to the republic for which we stand, one nation, part of one world, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ann Arbor. Go out and vote. Get involved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we'll start.